Howdy folks, welcome to the channel. So today what I'm working on is this Honda right here, obviously, but I've been getting some pretty crappy gas mileage in this thing as of recently. And now I think the problem could be one of two things. So recently what I've done here is I was at the junkyard and I found some fuel injectors, and for no other reason other than that they looked cleaner and in better shape than my fuel injectors were. So I pulled them out and swapped them over. Right around that same time, like within 3 or 4 days of that, I pulled out the catalytic converter and swapped in this test pipe. And I know it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's flanged and it uses gaskets and everything. It just deletes the cat and deletes the lower O2 sensor. The reason I pulled the cat out in the first place was I wanted it to be a little bit louder. Of course, who's got a Honda and doesn't want it to be loud? It didn't really accomplish that, to be totally honest. It sounds exactly the same with the catalytic converter gone, but the muffler still in line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the catalytic converter back in place, reinstall that lower O2 sensor, and then I'm just going to delete the muffler. And we'll see how we sound that way. And if we need it to be even louder, we can still always run the test pipe again. I'll just have to figure out how to hook up that lower O2 sensor. All right, we'll quickly pull this fuel injector rail off. It's going to be all 10 millimeters on these Hondas. One thing I love about them, pretty much everything's going to be a 10. And then this thing should just pop right out with all the injectors in them. Yep, just like that. Get you guys in here a little closer. So all I did was pull off the two 10 millimeter nuts on these long studs here, and then you can just pop the fuel injector rail right out with all the fuel injectors. Sometimes the injectors will stay in the intake manifold. Sometimes they'll come out with the rail. Got to unplug all these, and it's pretty obvious where they go back in place, so I'm not going to worry about labeling these or anything. Alrighty, so I've got a total of 12 different junkyard injectors here. These are the set that I just pulled off. So I'll retain those gaskets and grommets and what have you. So I'm thinking it's going to be these four right here. If I recall correctly, all the ones that I pulled out had green tips. So I think these is the right set right here. These ones are a different brand, so those ones can't be the right ones. These ones have black tips, and these are the ones that I just pulled out. So I think that only leaves me with this set of four right here by process of elimination. So we'll pop these four back in. All right, got all them blown out. Screens are in there. Grommets are all on there. Let's go install them. All righty, that last one was a little tricky too, but we got them all. Now we'll poke them down into the intake manifold. And actually what I think I'm gonna do is I'll pop the grommets off of the injectors and I'll place them into the manifold. So this way I'm just setting the fuel injectors down into the grommets, not trying to push the grommets into the manifold. Should be a little easier on them. Alrighty, cool. Now these grommets are all set in the manifold. I'll just pop the injectors and the rail down in there. Yep. Alright, that's the way to do it. Alright, so somehow I managed to actually hold on to all the bolts and nuts other than this one right here. Alright guys, so I was perusing around the old Facebook marketplace and stumbled on this right here. This is a full 2.5-inch exhaust for the Honda. The original was like 1.75 inch, and it's essentially a full exhaust. The only thing that's not 2.5 inch is the pipe leaving the catalytic converter. You can see right there, that's still the OEM, and then it adapts up to the 2.5 inch right there, which is definitely not ideal to have that like 1.5 foot of the 1.75 inch, like a choke point right in the exhaust. However, when I get the turbo installed in the car, there's going to be a different flange, and I'll just go 2.5 inch straight out of the turbo, and I'll use some of this stuff to get it the rest of the way there. But right now we're just going to install almost a full 2.5 inch exhaust. So let's get down there and start tweaking some stuff around and make this thing work. Alrighty, so the first thing we had to do was patch up a couple holes right here. This is where one of the hangers was. So we're gonna zap a hanger back onto that gob of weld right there. And then I need to put another hanger underneath the car to receive this grommet hanger, whatever you wanna call it. So I cut a hanger off the muffler, and I'm just gonna use this one. Cleaned it up a little bit so I can get a good weld on there, and we'll just weld it to that spot right there. So I'm gonna do it real quick. All right, I don't have have any hardware, so I'm gonna just cut a couple of chunks of this all thread and use it. Always make sure you cut right towards an extension cord. Helps you maintain a steady hand. Alright, we'll stick this hanger onto here. Pull her on. Alright, grommet. Can't get this grommet into this Wallace. There we go. There. Well, boy, that sure doesn't point where it's supposed to, does it? No siree, it does not. Okay, you can see this is the stainless. This is where the stainless ended, and that is where I adapted up to 2.5 inch. And then there's just like a short little 1.5 foot run up the rest of the way to the catalytic converter. Before, the first way I had it set up, this was pointing like way over here, totally in the wrong direction. I had to use like 245s to make that work. However, I flipped this thing upside down to where it looks like it's running upside down. And that made it all line up just right. So that's probably the way that this is supposed to run. So I'm just gonna put a couple tack welds on this. One right here, and then one right here. And then for this, we'll leave this undone until the very end. And I'm just gonna use a clamp to secure this last portion here, because I don't wanna weld this mild steel to the stainless steel right here. It's just gonna end up not doing a very good job. So we'll just clamp this last connection right here. I got this little chunk tacked up. Time to weld it the rest of the way up. All right, so the exhaust is open right now. I think it's a good time to do a little sound test. See how it sounds, just a wide open cap. It's gonna be obnoxious, I presume. And of course the battery's not hooked up because I've been welding on it. Hopefully it doesn't sound worse with the 2.5 inch exhaust. Alrighty folks, so I finished the car up last night, finished up the exhaust. It got a little too dark and scary outside. Also, it's kind of cold out there. So I stopped filming and I'm just starting up again now. But right now, what we got going here, we have our 18 inches or so of 1 3/4 inch exhaust pipe leading to a 2.5 inch, well, a series of adapters leading up to 2.5 inch. And then we go over from, this is mild steel to stainless steel with a clamp right there. And then we are just right out the back right now with a straight pipe. You can't see it, but there's no muffler on it. So real quick, as promised, I'm gonna give you guys a little sound test without the muffler. We'll see how that sounds. We'll add the muffler back onto it, see how that sounds, and then we'll decide what we wanna do from there. So on with the sound tests. All right, it's not totally cold. I did just go around the block for the first sound clip attempt. Let's see how this sounds though. Not too shabby. Let's go for a little ride. All right, it's gonna be hard to drive and film at the same time, but I'll do my best here. This is a Manuel after all. Here's inside the cab with one window down. All right, this spot looks like it'll work just fine. bit loud. Alright, so this is the muffler that I'm putting on there. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a lot of loose crap in there. I have a feeling this isn't going to sound so hot, but we'll try it out anyway. It came with the rest of that stuff, so might as well give it a shot. It's hanging in there okay. Let me grab a gasket to put in that flange there. This is actually half a gasket. The front half of it ripped out, but this is should still work just fine. It's not like we're creating a whole bunch of pressure here with this exhaust. All right, there we go. That sucker's installed. Again, I don't think it's gonna sound too hot, but let's spark it up and give it a shot. It's full 2.5-inch exhaust with muffler. You know, I actually don't hate that at all. Let's go do another little drive-by real quick. All right. Hear it inside the cab. Well, that changes everything. That's crazy. It sounds way different. Who would have thought a muffler would make it that quieter? All right, new spot for the drive-by. Perfect. Real quick, for those of you guys who are looking to change your exhaust, I wanted to do just a quick little compilation of what the exhaust notes sound like side by side. So here's that real quick. Alrighty, folks, in conclusion, I do think it sounds a little bit better without the muffler. It's a lot louder, and I do have neighbors, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep the muffler there until I get the turbo on there, and at that point, I'll just go full straight pipe, no cat, no muffler, no nothing. Screw the neighbors. As far as what I started off this video with the gas mileage, I've actually been driving around like too much of a maniac with these new exhausts, testing them out to really get a good gauge of what my gas mileage would be without it. However, it does seem a lot better on like a half a tank, just based off the gauge, which is not super accurate. But on a half tank, I've gotten like 150 miles, which translates to about like 30 miles to the gallon. So that's a lot better than what I was getting. I think it was like 22 miles to the gallon is what I was getting before the injector swap. Alrighty guys, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to leave a like. Head on over to my channel, check out some of my older videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.